Welcome to another edition of North Heat. My name is Bob Lennon. I'm president of Thermalwood Canada and host of the show. Today, our special guest, Don Chafe. Tell us a little bit about you are co-owner and executive producer of Atlantic Business Magazine. Tell us a little bit more about what that's all about.
For sure. No. So I am the co-owner and executive editor, but I will say it often feels like being a producer, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been with the magazine for over 25 years. Started as a freelancer, became editor shortly after my second son was born and have been editor ever since. Roughly 2.5 years ago, my co-owner Tony Sheridan and we bought the company from her parents. They had founded it, Hubert and Edwina Hutton. And so we've been, taking it to I guess, a slightly different direction than it ever was before. But one thing that hasn't changed and that we intend to keep the same as we move forward is certainly our dedication to telling Atlantic Canadian business stories, because that's really who we are. We have been Atlantic Canada's business magazine for over 33 years, going into our 34th year now. And that's what we do, issue after issue, 6 times a year. We put out a publication that is dedicated 100% to Atlantic Canadian people, Atlantic Canadian businesses, and sharing their stories with our regional, national, and international audience. And I have to tell you, it's been an incredible privilege to do so.
Well, that's interesting because our whole show is all about promoting Atlantic Canada and things that people are doing that's above and beyond where we consider as being really really special. So what is it, and like if we put it this way as that and think about it in this light, is that what's the climate in Atlantic Canada for business? How are we promoting it, and what makes Atlantic Canada a place attractive that other business should come to and work here?
Right. I mean, I'll tell you, I think it comes down to the people and ingenuity and innovation. So we have an incredibly entrepreneurial mindset within the region. And I think it comes back to our traditional resource-based industries. So you think about loggers and fishers, hunters, farmers. For decades, that was sort of the backbone of Atlantic Canadian industry. And each of those occupations are very much entrepreneurial because you had people who were responsible for their own operations. So they would, create their own income throughout the year. And it's a mindset that has permeated through the decades and the centuries, and it's here we are today, to a point that people love to found their own business. And if they haven't, I often talk to people who are on the cusp of or dreaming about opening their own business. And I think that's why people like to set up here as well, is because they know they're going to find entrepreneurial partners who want to work with them. So you asked me about what is the business climate here in Atlantic Canada. I'll tell you in a nutshell, judging from the number of press releases and the communications I get, our top 50 CEO awards, our 30 under 30 awards, all of the programs we do throughout the year, this is an incredibly hot climate for business activity.
Well, that's good to know. So, we're going to promote this and make sure we share it all the way through Atlantic Canada and above and beyond because we talked about this a little bit before. As people from Atlantic Canada, from New Brunswick, and I'm sure the rest of the provinces are the same, we don't boast about what we have. And so you, on the other hand, have an opportunity to really talk about what some of the businesses do in Atlantic Canada and promote them, right? And that helps draw the other people in.
But it's funny you say that. So I'm thinking back to the start of our top 50 CEO awards. They're entering our 25th year next year. So in 2023, we celebrate 25 years of corporate leadership excellence. But when we launched those awards, it was fascinating because we had a bit of a struggle to get people to accept the nomination. And the reason they didn't want to accept the nomination was, I just, I don't want to be boastful. I don't want to brag about what I'm doing. That's not who I am. And I just prefer to sort of, do what I do, but do it under the radar. And we had a job in the early years convincing people to accept their nomination and letting us write about them, letting us celebrate them. But the thing with that, and I think it's really important too, is that is, I guess, a self-perpetuating prophecy. So the more that people hear about success stories here in Atlantic Canada, because you know yourself, Bob, way too often we hear about, the economy is, falling down, or it's just not going where we need it to be, and it's not sustainable, and we have the ups and the downs, the unemployment is high, and all of those things. But the more you hear about the positive stories, you more hear about people who are doing well, the more inspirational it is to show other people that yes, I can achieve that too. If they can do it, why can't I? And so the more we have of that kind of activity, the better it is for everyone. So you get like a Radiant Six, and then you get a Verafin, and you have companies like Cook Aquaculture, and you have John Risley's success, and then you hear about, Clearwater Seafoods and Boise's Bay. And I'm sorry, I know I can go on for quite some time.
But you're absolutely right, is that we don't talk enough about these stories, but they're happening. They're happening in the background. They're there. All we have to do is tell them, and you've got a medium to tell it. Now, the other thing that you do also is that you've got a couple of conferences coming up that I've been to a few of them in the past prior to COVID, and that you're coming back out with them again. And these conferences are pulling people together from all different walks of life, but it's a great opportunity to network. So you want to talk a little bit about those because you've got one in each province set up over the next
Sure.
few weeks.
Yeah, so it's actually born out of COVID, I suppose. So just backtracking a little bit, and as I said, Tony and I had purchased the company from her parents just 6 months prior to COVID. But when that happened, of course, just like everybody else, it was a shock to our system. We didn't know how to respond. We ended up laying our staff off for a short period of time. We put our magazines on hold. We really didn't know what direction we were going in, but we were determined that we were going to come back, and we were going to come back strong. So we use that period as a time of introspection to plan ahead and say, this is how we are going to take the company in a new direction going forward. And the one thing we agreed on in our strategy sessions was that Atlantic Business Magazine, we have always considered it the print edition, the start of a conversation. So you think about a conversation between readers and writers, between advertisers and purchasers, between thought leaders and lifelong learners. So, it was always the initiation of a deeper conversation. And we said, you know what, let's take that to another level. So this is where the events come in. So this is the whole, I guess, impetus, the reason for why we are hosting a number of events. And we're trying to brand one with each edition of the magazine. So of course, September's edition is our natural resources edition. And we're talking about all things resource development across Atlantic Canada. And to take that to the next level, we have founded a series of resource development conferences under the theme of Atlantic Canada. We're resourceful, and we are capitalizing the full because we have so much here. And frankly, it's stunning to me that we are not the most prosperous region in the country when you look at the population that we have and the resources that we have here to be developed. So what we've done is that starting September 8th here in St. John's, and then we're moving to Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island on the 13th of September. We're going to be in New Brunswick on the 14th, and then in Halifax on the 16th. And in each city that we're going to, we have a slightly different agenda because we wanted to highlight the resource development, the most topical issues in that province, and just so that we could, also bring in a number of different perspectives and address a number of different issues that are both complementary to what we're talking about in the magazine this issue, but also digging deeper into the whole idea of resource development. Here in St. John's, we're dealing with some things like hydrogen power. So John Risley and World Energy GH2 um, are making headlines. That just brought a whole delegation from Germany and the Prime Minister to West Coast of Newfoundland to talk about hydrogen development. So Risley is going to be one of the keynote speakers. Dr. Wade Locke is going to be speaking. He has been one of the preeminent economists across Atlantic Canada for over 25 years. In Prince Edward Island, we're going to have a discussion with agricultural producers, and we're going to talk about risk management in a global environment. We have Jason Aspen from Aspen Kent, and he's going to be talking about the path to net zero. New Brunswick, we're looking at mining is a significant one there in New Brunswick, along with Michelle Robichaud from the Atlantic Center for Energy, Atlantica Center for Energy. She's touching on basically the broader energy landscape in Atlantic Canada. We're also going to be talking about trucking in New Brunswick. Hello, it's a border province. And what happens if the trucks go off the road? If you want to get things from here to there, you have, most of our transportation in the region, specifically in New Brunswick as border province, are on trucks, and they're dealing with rising fuel costs. They are dealing with greenhouse gas emissions. So in Nova Scotia, where we finish off, we have a new proponent um, who's talking about harnessing power from the Bay of Fundy. We have someone, who's both interviewed this issue in one of our articles, and who's also going to be the keynote speaker talking about a new breakthrough that might just be the key to finally harnessing that power from the Bay of Fundy.
Is that there's a lot of information that people can gather by going to one of these conferences, not just the fact of networking, but there's going to be a lot of really good knowledge to be able to capture there. So if they want to register for this, how do they register?
Mhm. So if you visit our website, it's just atlanticbusinessmagazine.ca, you'll see this beautiful big slider on the front page, and it talks about Resource Development Conference. You click in there, you'll see the full conference agenda, everybody who's going to be speaking in each location, and there's a big, beautiful, bold red box that says, click here to book your tickets.
Well,
So
sounds pretty easy to do, so everybody should do it. Like you said, there's all kinds of very, very good information to gather. You focused in on what provinces have to offer, and it's different topics in each one. If you're interested and want to register at a couple of different conferences, and go right ahead because they're going to be different guest speakers at each one of them.
exactly.
And so it gives you an opportunity to get a little bit bigger globally and find out more information. And listen, Don, I appreciate the fact of the work that you and your co-owner are doing together to promote businesses in Atlantic Canada, to get people out there and to tell that story that people don't hear. So very much appreciated from this side of the fence, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again at the conference in St. John. I'm going to enjoy listening to everybody there, and thank you again for the invite, and thank you very much for being on the show today.
Thanks you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate your patience with my energy and enthusiasm. So,
Listen, I think that that's going to reflect on the conference itself because your enthusiasm on who you brought in is also going to reflect there. So again, congratulations on that, and thank you very much for doing that.
thanks so much, Bob. I appreciate it.
There we are, another edition of Northern Heat for this week, the place you come to listen to the stories that you haven't heard yet.